In the last video, I made 5 bingo players rank controversial statements on a scale of strongly disagree to strongly agree. This is the second part of that video with 5 more controversial statements that they'll give their opinions on. With that being said, I hope you enjoy, with the first statement being SMS Bingo has potential as an esport.
I disagree there. The only thing keeping me from saying strongly disagree is the fact that the competition has such a high ceiling, has such a interesting dynamic back and forth. I think it is extremely entertaining, and obviously I enjoy it a lot. But I think it just has some hurdles that it could not overcome to be an esport. The main reason being, it's just not the main way to play the game. So it's not something that a casual player would come across. And you can't really, there's ways to casually do a sunshine bingo with your friends, but it requires quite a bit of explaining. It requires multiple people to have the game, and requires, for it to be entertaining, it requires people to be around the same level, as opposed to something like, Smash Bros, where you just need 2 people play on the same console, playing the main mode of the game. You get good that way, then you discover it's an esport, and then you get into it. There's just not an easy avenue for someone to get into SMS Bingo like that, or for a large number of people to get in like that. And then also, it's just too far past the game coming out. There's just not going to be a huge influx of new players at any point. There could be, decent surges if there's a remake of the game, or if it comes out on, Nintendo Switch Online. But there's never going to be, the game just came out, everyone's discovering the game, and then some people are discovering this bingo mode. So for that reason, it just doesn't have any of the things you need for it to be an esport or sustaining esport. Even if there's a ton of money in the scene, I don't think it would work as an esport, because there's not a sustainable viewer base and player base for the level that you would expect from an esport.
I'm going to say slightly disagree. I think, in a way it already kind of is an esport, because we're playing it online competitively. But I think there's 2 reasons. One is just we're a small community. I don't think we're going to get a lot of people picking up SMS anytime soon and playing bingo. I also think, while it's cool as an alternative to speedrunning, and it's we always say it's the best bingo game ever, I think from completely casual perspective, it isn't quite that action-packed. Once you kind of know the goals, the routes and stuff like that, the standard ones at least, there's a lot of downtime where players don't interact for 10 minutes. It's okay, he's going to do, I don't know, 4 Noki, and you just watch him play Noki for 10 minutes, and I don't think there's much excitement there. Meanwhile, the other player is doing something completely unrelated, and yeah. So while there are a lot of hype moments, I think the majority of the time is not that hype. It is to us because we love the game, but I think that's going to limit it as an esport.
SMS Bingo has potential as an esport. My answer is huh? Hold on. I think I slightly disagree with this, but I am unsure. Because what would being an esport entail? It kind of is an esport by the definition of esport, right? It's just a very small one. But I guess to properly answer the question. I slightly disagree because I don't think we'll grow much more than like our current size. So, yeah.
With this statement, I slightly agree because I still think that bingo speedrunning thing is kind of hard to get very popular. It's kind of niche. Already speedrunning is a niche. Like it's very hard to see people playing speedruns in general and be so dedicated to this one to the game. And bingo is like the niche of the niche because like inside the speedrunning you have bingo. But with the statement of being a potential as an esport, I think SMS Bingo has the most potential of it. I have tried other type of bingos in other games, and I think SMS Bingo has something very particular that other bingos doesn't have, even when it has like very early stages of SMS. The SMS has like this particular thing that is quite progressive, the game, so it's not like all in from the start. So like at the beginning you have like a few words open and that makes like a lot of progression during the game. That makes it interesting to see how different players progress during the game. And with the fact that also we have a lot of research during the in the bingo scene, like routing and formats and stuff like that, makes like quite unique, and it's super difficult to see two matches being the same, even with the same card. I think like in the last Down of Destiny tournament, we saw actually I played one card that was already played, and we played it quite differently for what the other players did. So I think it's quite unique on like his very low repetitiveness, and also can have a lot of surprises, so it can be very interesting to see and to play because it's not perfect. And the fact that it's not perfect and like everything costs a bit, like errors can makes a lot of cost, like losing one goal or like stuff like that. That makes it a potential as an esport as like the most interesting one. So for that reason, I think I slightly agree with that statement.
SMS Bingo has potential as an esport. I'm going to go with slightly agree. I think sure, potential. I think it's super exciting to watch, super interesting. I think the level of esports is quite high, and it's a tough barrier to entry. I think Sunshine Bingo might be a little hard to digest, if it's your first time watching it. I think the strategy is there, the skill is extremely well represented, right? You have to know so much and be able to do so much. But I think it's maybe not quite as accessible as the big esports right now. But potential, sure. I mean, you can make a competition out of this, and if people put the time in, it's you're gonna have some amazing matches.
For the second question, if you were placed against Rimato in a single tournament with a random main format, you have at least a 10% chance to win.
If you were placed against Rimato in a single tournament with a random main format, you have at least a 10% chance to win. So it's a one match type of deal. I say I agree with this. Rimato is definitely favored, but he's not like guaranteed to win for sure. And 10% is not a very big number, so I'm gonna say I'm for sure above that. Maybe like maybe I win like one matches in 5. I could see that.
I'm going to say I agree. I know we've probably played around 10 matches at this point, and I have not won, but played really most of ours have been practice for this invasion tournament, which is probably one of the harder ones for me against Rimato. And even still, there were times where I had chances. There were 2 matches where there was a very reasonable path to victory. So I think 10% is pretty fair. And if we played enough, especially if I was actively practicing, then I think I would have a decent chance there. So yeah, I feel I have a little bit better than 10%, but I haven't shown it yet. So I'll have to get that first win, and then it'll be easier to make that claim. But I do think I have that chance, and I always go for a route that I believe has a chance of winning. So eventually I'll get that breakthrough.
For this statement, I strongly agree. I think if I was placed against Rimato with a random format, I will have at least 10% chance. I know that I'm not the best player, so I'm not saying that I will have 90% chances of winning, stuff like that. But I think I have proof during time that I can beat anyone, and that's quite surprising. Like I literally think I can beat everyone. It's just that recently I have been playing less and less. This makes my level quite more inconsistent of what it was at the time. But I think on a tournament, especially if like I'm playing when I'm like especially training more, I think I'm sure I have at least 10% chance to win. I have this X factor that I have shown that this is quite possible.
If I were placed against Rimato in a single tournament with a random main format, I have at least a 10% chance to win. I'm going to go with agree. I don't think I can put a strongly in front of it, but 10%, yeah. I think I can take Rimato 1 in 10 games. And but I think I'm losing 9 out of 10. I mean, he is the best for a reason. I think his routing's incredible. His speed is obviously much faster than mine. But I think there's enough variance in bingo. Basically, if he picks a route and I were able to counter it or predict it, I think I can get enough of an edge to close out the match. Maybe another way to think of it, if I could watch Rimato stream while he's playing, I bet I could beat him. You know, if I could like perfectly choose a counter route. And the other way to think about that is like, if I just perfectly predict what he's going to do, I think that's essentially equivalent to watching the stream. And I think that'll happen, 1 in 10 times. I don't think my odds are much higher than that, though. I'd put it right around 10%.
Strong agree. I've come close to beating him in season 3 when he was at his arguable peak, or like just coming off it, in the one match we played. And if Tomato can beat him, then I can beat him. Yeah, not much there. I think I can take a 10% chance against anyone.
For the third statement, we have, you see yourself as a good router relative to the others answering these questions.
I see myself as a good router relative to the others answering these questions. I'd say agree. I think this pool of players has some incredible routers. I mean, I think Tomato has put us together for a reason. We are maybe not the top tier of speed, but all have had strong showings either recently or in the past. And I think this is just an incredible pool of routers here. So as a good relative, I mean, I think I'm sort of known for routing, but I think everyone's caught up. So maybe agree. I still think I'm pretty good. Maybe my showing in the last tourney was not quite representative of that, but yeah, I wouldn't say by much at all.
For this statement that I disagree. I don't see myself as a good router relative to the others in these questions. Like, let's go like player by player. Bright Guy, I think, is a monster in terms of routing. I think he got like the peak of routing at the time and super brilliant. The routes and the idea that he has. Andy Mason, I think, is a very consistent player in terms of routing. So I think he quite beat me because I don't see myself as a good router in general. I see myself more as a good reactioner. I don't know how to like actually say the word, but it's like my gameplay is getting the peak while the other player plays, so I can react to the player and to take decisions, and I think my decisions are better at that time. But this doesn't mean I'm a good router. I just can calculate more or less the situation fastly when I see something happen, so I can like react, knowing like okay, if that player clicks that goal, I know that the combination of like possible things, what they are and what is more probable to be, and so on and so on. Pitch and Rasmus, I think they're more or less the same level as routing, and I think both of them are like consistently well. I think Rasmus has like a few controversial decisions at the end game sometimes, but he's still way better router than me. And I think Patches also is better than me in general as a routing player. But yeah, I think it's mostly because of that. I think I'm not a good router. I actually find like very difficult times, like how to play the card and so on and so on. And actually have like more I play, more I take like I learn ways to like do a simple routing at the beginning, so like I can like prepare well for a lot of situations, such that I can contest the other player in case of anything.
This might be a hot take, but I'm going to strongly agree, partially just because I got to back myself, but also because I think I am kind of an underrated router. I think routing is actually one of the stronger parts of my game. I think I'm weaker at like the end game decision making, stuff like that. But yeah, I think I'm a very practical router. I think I tend to like usually be in just like pretty solid positions coming out of like the early game. And maybe that's also why I hate this path so much, is because like a lot of my routing I think is just getting out of the early game in solid positions, and then kind of going from there and playing. I think it's also kind of why I've been kind of like the final boss of the people below me in like the rankings or ladder, whatever you want to call it. It's just because I think I tend to have pretty solid routes that like there isn't, you know, a path to just like catching me off guard. I also think, yeah, I don't know. I think like a lot of people, like I tend to do kind of offbeat things here and there. And I think people see that as bad, but I kind of see that as like something good and something you have to do to like keep your opponents second guessing. And I think it's all like pretty calculated risk. So yeah, I'm not going to say I'm like the best router ever, but I think it's a pretty strong part of my game.
You see yourself as a good router relative to the others answering these questions. I disagree with this. I might be the weakest router in this lineup, but I'm not like that far behind. Because like, who do we have? We have Bry Guy, Mason, and Yato, who might have a slight speed advantage over, and then Peaches, who has a slight speed advantage over me. But I don't think routing is my strong suit in this group for sure. Yeah, I would say I'm the weakest router in this lineup.
I'm going to say neutral. I think everyone obviously in this list is considered a good router and is a good router. I've got success against a lot of the players in this group, despite being slower than most of them. Probably similar speeds to Yato and Bragai, but I've had good results on most of them. I've not had good results against Peaches, but Peaches just have quite a big speed advantage. So it's tough to say too much of the difference between us, but I think we're all good routers, and relative to each other, we're all pretty close. So I do think I can more than hold my own in this group, but I'm not gonna go out and rank the five of us by best to worst router just because there's so many factors into it. There's sometimes it can be easier to route as the slower player because you can route around the obvious play, and then there's also something to be said by being the faster player and taking advantage of that with a good route. So there's a lot of aspects to it, and there's not gonna go out too much on a limb with trying to compare the routing abilities because everyone here has shown themselves to be capable, but also shown themselves to be vulnerable. So everyone's pretty close, and I'm definitely in the pack. So.
For the fourth question, we have casual SMS players should be encouraged to start with bingo instead of regular speedrunning.
For this statement, I strongly disagree. The fact that casual SMS players should not start with bingo instead of regular speedrunning. The best that I can explain this is like based on my own experience. I didn't start speedrunning. I started speedrunning like 120 times, but with a very bad route and bad gameplay, and was like super horrible. And I took like 9 hours to finish 120 times, something like that. And I and then I decided to play bingo, to just I will play bingo just to improve, and I will be happy and everything will work, and was completely horrible. I remember I got destroyed a lot of times, and I lost several times, in the Raw Control tournament, in the season 1 of Bingo League, where I got like 0 victories. And all that happens is because I didn't focus on regular speedrunning first, in the sense that I think you should learn first the basis of the game so that you can play bingo, because SMS Bingo is a very huge monster of information and a lot of movement required. Even if you we as speedrunners of the game, we usually not do those routes or do those things. We learn how to move in the world, and I think without that movement and without that knowledge of where are the blues or which blues they can get or which they can close, it's just a very difficult time. And I think casual SMS players just have rough time. I think if everyone just first train the basis of the game as the regular speedrunning, so many percent, something like that, and even some blues categories instead, and then can get enough knowledge to have a fun time during bingo. I think in other case you will have a very hard time, and it's quite difficult to improve with only playing bingo. You will need at some point doing IELTS, and you need to train, and then you need to do a lot of movement training, and etc. etc. So that's the main reason I think everyone should encourage to play the game normally. But it was a quite experience as myself. I think actually when I improved was because I improved my categories. I improved 20%, I improved 120 shines, and then I also played a lot of bingo.
Casual SMS players should be encouraged to start with bingo instead of regular speedrunning. I'm going to go disagree, maybe even leaning into strongly disagree. I think bingo is so much more fun, but I think, as I mentioned in one of the earlier responses, the barrier to entry is pretty high. And not to like play bingo. I mean, sure, you can start and you can start playing, but if you want to really succeed in bingo, I think you'll get pretty frustrated with it if you don't have the speedrunning fundamentals. And now I'm not saying you should play like 50 hours of any percent. I think you should be able to do an any percent run in like 2 hours. You know, right? You don't need a great time, like, but you do need the fundamentals to be able to finish the game, complete the shines. And that's one half, and then the other half is learning where everything is. And I think that you can do in parallel if you want. I think working towards bingo is a great way to jump into speedrunning. But I think the first thing you should do is learn how to beat the game.
I'm going to go with strongly disagree. There's a lot to bingo, and I know some players, you know, if they find out about bingo and that's more interesting, or you know, it gets someone to play more because there's just more to bingo than there is to just speedrunning. I definitely can see that, but I do think, you know, bingo is a lot more fun once you get to a certain level of movement and capability. You know, we try to think of ways that make it easier for a new player to get into bingo, but really, you know, once you get to a certain level of speed, then bingo there's just so much more you can do with the time, with the strats, with the clips. Like, you know, if you can't get into Pianta or Serena before getting Yoshi or Rocket Nozzle, that just completely shifts the balance of a bingo. And I think Serena whenever is one of the like best things to happen for lockout bingo, because it offers it offers you a slow world that might have a lot of value, and then Pianta offers you a fast world that may not have a ton of value, but gets you quick level shines. So it's like our Pianta and Serena, while you can work around those, they have such a good place in the meta, and they're just such interesting worlds to be able to go to early that trying to you know, jump into bingo before you can do those consistently, or before you can complete secrets consistently without dying, it's going to make bingo, in my opinion, it's going to make it less fun. And I think more people will end up being pushed away from bingo while trying to start with it than if they get to a certain baseline in speedrunning, and then with that ability they jump into bingo. But I'm not going to discourage anyone from starting with bingo, or discourage anyone who is playing bingo while not able to, you know, really practice the speedrunning aspect. But I think starting with speedrunning is going to make the bingo experience a lot smoother and a lot more fun if you get the speedrunning down first.
I'm going to go disagree. I don't think they should necessarily be encouraged to do speedrunning over regular bingo or over bingo either. I think they should just kind of do what they want. I will say though, just from the results, I think all the top players historically have started from the speedrunning side. So like if you want to get good at bingo, like you just have to put the time into playing, I think is the biggest thing. And I think speedrunning is like one of the best ways to just get the muscle memory down for playing the game and like being able to do the shines fast. And like obviously ILs are a thing, but I think I don't know, I think there's something missing from doing just bingo ILs over and over. So yeah, I think at the end of the day, if you want to get good at bingo, you have to play the game a lot, and where you start doesn't really matter that much.
Casual SMS players should be encouraged to start with bingo instead of regular speedrunning. I think I slightly disagree with this take. It's like so close to me agreeing with it though. It's kind of like you should start with something. Like it kind of doesn't matter too much what you start with, but bingo adds like a couple of layers that is like unrelated to the game, so to speak. Like you have to think about so much more when playing. But I guess like it depends on what your goal is. It would also like it would be nice if you started with bingo because then there will be more people playing bingo. So like it's good for bingo. But I don't think it has like related to playing the game, it doesn't have any advantage starting with bingo compared to starting with any percent or ILs or whatever. I'm pretty much neutral on this, I guess.
And for the fifth statement, we have the peak of bingo is behind us.
Strongly agree, as sad as that is. I think season 2, maybe season 3. Well, for me, it was obviously season 2 because of the winning streak I went on, but I think a lot of people also like season 3 with the ladder stuff. And I had a good time then too as well. But yeah, I don't think we're ever going to get 40 plus people signed up for a tournament again. Yeah, sucks, but it was a good run while it lasted. Maybe there'll be another pandemic or something world changing where we're stuck inside and just want to play some Super Mario Sunshine, some nostalgia games, but we'll see. Probably for the worse if that happens, I guess.
The peak of bingo is behind us? I wanna say I disagree with this, but I think I can't, unfortunately. Like, but okay. Yeah, I'm gonna say that I agree with this take because I don't think we'll see another season I don't think we're gonna see another event like season 2 of the Bingo League again or the 2018 TV2 tournament because I think those were like the tournaments and leagues with the most participants. I don't think we'll see that again due to like speedrunning. I don't want to say it's like less popular or on the downfall, but it is a little more spread out, I feel. Like Sunshine used to be a powerhouse, definitely like top 5 games. Whereas now it's a little bit more, I don't want to say niche either, because it's still pretty popular, but like, you know what I mean. Also, there was the season 2 happened during the pandemic, which meant that a lot of people were like at home, which meant they could play, and maybe more importantly, watch. Like, I assume the watch time was very high during season 2, which helps keep it alive. But maybe, like, it depends on what you think the peak means when it comes to bingo. Because, like, at the start of this recent tournament, it kind of had the same vibes, where people were hanging out and interested in bingo, and, you know, matches were happening, people were in chat, people were playing, people were screaming. But on the other hand, it didn't, like, cost the same amount of hangouts as it did during season 2, due to the aforementioned stay-at-home conditions. But yeah, to summarize, I think the peak of bingo is behind us, but I don't think that should be like a sad thing, because it's not like we're dropping far below the peak. We're just gonna be like our own little peak, a local maximum, if you will.
The peak of bingo is behind us. I'm going to go neutral on this. I think the future's too hard to predict. We've been seeing some awesome bingo recently. I think, maybe it's as a personal one, my peak of bingo is behind me. I'll say that's probably true. I think I just don't have the time and resources and sort of the excitement around it that was there like at the peak for me. But the peak of bingo in general, I think there's so much room to grow. Like this community is awesome. The game is still so much fun to play, and it's something that never gets old. You can just keep going, right? There's always things to evolve. If we get tired of the goal set, I'm sure we can come up with 50 new goals that will totally change the meta and keep the game fresh and exciting. So I'm super excited to see where it goes in the coming years. Like I said, I'm looking forward to that 2036 bingo tourney.
I'm going to go with slightly agree. There's always a chance that, there is another resurgence, or obviously we just had an incredible tournament in the past few months that brought a lot of people back. But, in some regards, it was fun for some people to come back to bingo, or, give another tournament a shot. It's unlikely, I think, that there are going to be a ton of the top players that continue to actively play in like every event like we saw for a few years. So in that regard, it's tough to see another era of bingo like we saw in 2019 and 2020. There, I think, there definitely could be a lot of really solid play, and if a few players, a few really top players stick with bingo for a bit, you could, I think that brings in more other top players, and as the middle tier is rising, then there definitely could be some really, really good tournaments and good competition and practice and events. But especially as the old guard gets older, there isn't quite enough of the new players rising and old guard, I think, to give me any hope that there's going to match what we saw from the first few bingo league seasons and some of those, like the 2020 lockout tournament. Even with giving 8 players invites and running a new person tournament, we still had significantly less people than season 2 of bingo leagues. So I think it would take quite a few, extenuating circumstances to bring some top players back, to encourage some new bingo players from some of the faster players in the scene, and to see the continued the mainstays stick around. So there's a possibility for a new era of bingo that rivals what we've seen, but it seems unlikely. And so I would slightly agree that we won't match that again.
Oh, this statement is nice. The peak of bingo is behind us. I think I'm neutral. It's like I don't have a specific answer to this, or like if I slightly agree or disagree. I think there are reasons why you should agree or not. The main reason why I think it's hard to see the peak of SMS Bingo now is that the COVID bingo season happened, and that was huge. Was huge, 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 huge. Like a lot of people had a lot of time. We had a lot of free time. We had a lot of a lot of time to spend of playing bingo. We had like a tournament with like 40 players. I think 40 players a lot, and we have like a lot of matches. It was crazy. I have no idea how we did that. And like we play a lot, and there was like always someone playing and screaming. I remember that even like screaming was hard, but not because there wasn't enough people. It was because like a lot of people answer fast. It's like, yeah, I will play. It's like, damn, I wanted to play too. So like you had to wait under there, and yeah. So I think it's hard to surpass that. But also, I mean, we don't know what will happen. So maybe we can see a bigger future of bingo next. But I'm not sure. I'm not sure. But I can see that now bingo will like increase the participation. I mean, it's already increased the amount of people playing. We had a new amount of people that appear and they're commentating matches, playing, be part of the community. That is really, really nice. So, yeah, I'm neutral. I think anything can happen.
And that is it for this video. First of all, I want to say thank you so much to Mason, Yato, Peaches, Bry, and Rasmus for agreeing to participate with this. It was super fascinating listening to you guys talk about everything. I don't know. I was super impressed. Like, just you guys clearly put a lot of thought into this, and um, everyone had super different, interesting things to say, and I thought pretty much everything was reasonable, which I thought was really cool. So thank you everyone for that. Please make sure to follow everyone. I've linked some stuff in the description. You can also find everyone in the bingo server if you want some clarity or if you want to argue with someone, as I know I will after this. In terms of my lessons, I think I really biffed the starting with bingo for casual players question. I think I should have instead made that question, should players be discouraged from starting with bingo? Because there I think we would have seen a greater variety of answers and maybe some more deep explanation, so that's on me. I do think the way I phrased it may have been like poor in a way, so that's my bad. And then I guess after this we'll have some outtakes. But there's one thing I want to say for the final question, which is that pessimism is a self-fulfilling prophecy. Like if we think the peak of bingo is behind us, then it will be behind us because no one will try to make that second peak happen. In my eyes, my answer would be neutral because I think at the end of the day, ultimately, the second peak of bingo is in our hands. So if you want to see a second peak of bingo, put your mind to it. You know, this is why I'm doing what I'm doing. This is why I made all those silly Dawn of a Dynasty trailers, and this is why I'm making this stuff. Is because I really believe in a second peak of bingo, maybe a greater peak than ever before. And you know, it's a world of opportunity out there, and I really think that uh, with the right luck, with the right work put in, with the right use of that opportunity, we can make that second peak happen. But you know, it's a world of dwindling time. You know, so I understand. You know, I just felt sad. You know, it's 2 in the morning. I'm working on this, and everyone's saying the peak is past us. You know, so my bad. That being said, enjoy these outtakes. They're pretty fun, and thank you so much for watching this all the way through here. And I appreciate you all, and hopefully, I'll have some more stuff up in 2 weeks. Probably not 1 week for this upcoming one, because I've got like my final projects I'll do at a time. And I don't have like anything pre-prepared. But you know, 1 week hopefully, or 2 weeks. Sorry, 2 weeks. All right, that's it for me, and enjoy the outtakes.
Thank you, Tomato, for sending these questions. I'm excited to hear the responses of everyone else.
That was a bad ending, I think. But you know, here you go, Tomato. Enjoy. Should I say something funny? Maybe you could use funny words. I don't know. Do you edit these? Make sure to subscribe to Modest Tomato on YouTube. And follow him on Twitch, where he will play Counter-Strike with me. If this video gets 2,000 likes, Tomato's gonna perform a backflip.